Hello, in this video we're going to be looking at creating a Khan Academy style dynamic search system. So if we go into Khan Academy, we click the search bar, it shows a sort of a little input field that we can put some text in to search on the website. And let's say I want to search for algebra, for example. So if I put algebra, as you can see, it automatically starts populating it with some sort of results. The actual results themselves, I'm not really too concerned about where they're coming from, the way they're formatted. The formatting is totally dependent on the way you want your website to look. Where they're coming from, they could be coming from an array which is directly coded into JavaScript. It could be something that the user has put in. It could be from a database using Ajax. Anything like that, doesn't matter. The code that we'll be creating is from a pre-populated array, but you'll be able to adapt it and use something like Ajax to replace the contents of that array with something from a database, for example, or some sort of online feed. So to do this, it's actually not too difficult. So what we want to do is, first of all, in your text editor, create a few files. The first one is a HTML file. If you've already got a HTML file, fantastic. You want a JavaScript file. The meat of the application is going to be in the JavaScript file. This is very JavaScript oriented. .css, there's going to be very minimal CSS in this particular project. We're going to be using Bootstrap and Bootstrap version 4 to be more specific, but you'll be able to adapt this or probably just copy and paste the code for Bootstrap version 3. You'll be able to modify this for the foundation syntax for w3.css. So any sort of responsive, any framework really, you'll be able to adapt this to. We're not really concerned about it being responsive, though we're using a responsive framework. Main reason is it's got really cool components and Bootstrap is the most popular one, so it's going to be the most relevant to most of the users. But like I said, it is easily adaptable to the particular framework or the sort of coding that you're using. So first of all, we're going to getbootstrap.com. I'll actually go to the home page so I can just show you where we're going using Bootstrap version 4, which is alpha 5. Go to documentation. I'm going to scroll down, get starter template. So copy that into the HTML file. I'm going to select it all, beautify it, just want to sort all that out. There will be a link in the description to the source code from this video and any other video in this sort of Khan Academy style snippet series. And before we actually start implementing like a navbar, search bar, all of that good stuff, we want to link up our JavaScript and our CSS files. So first of all, let's link up the CSS. So link relationship is going to be a style sheet. And the href, I think you guessed it, is gonna be index.js, but obviously you can adapt this accordingly depending on what your file is called, whether it's in a particular folder, etc., all simple stuff. Now we need to include our JavaScript file, so script, and we need to do the source as index.js. I'm going to just open this up, make sure there's no any errors or anything along those lines. So it's good to check as you go along. So if I inspect the element, there should be nothing in console, which is fantastic. So now if I go to the components, I want to go to the navbar. And I always generally use the collapsible navbar, which is towards the bottom, collapsible content, simply because that's the most adaptable one. And if you do want to implement this into some sort of website, this is probably be the best one in my opinion. So what you want to do is just replace this hello world, so we don't care about this. So replace that, save that. I mean, let's format it. Indent this bad boy. Save it, and let's go and refresh so you can see an update. So we got this sort of little nav bar going on. What we're going to do, we're going to modify this slightly. So the drop down, we're happy with leaving that in there, but the actual form itself, we're actually going to be removing the input, because we're going to make the input appear if the button is clicked. Very similar to what Khan Academy has. So if we get rid of this, I'm going to add an ID of search button. And now let's just scroll up. Now what we're going to be doing is, where are we? Where am I? I'm just trying to get my bearings with everything in here. So all of this code within the nav bar itself is going to go within an ID. So let me just cut that, put that here, and I'm going to indent this. This is going to have an ID of default navbar, because this is the default one that's going to be appearing. And what we're going to do is have another div. Actually, my bad. This div should also be within the nav. We're going to have another div, and this div is going to have an ID of search navbar. And in here, I'm going to keep it pretty simple. We're actually going to copy and paste this. For the classes of the form, I'm happy with all of that good stuff. I'm just going to modify that so it says left, because a lot of the other content is just going to disappear, because we're going to be using some nice styling and nice commands to hide and show stuff. So we're happy with that. But for the actual ID, it's going to be close search button. I'm just going to put the text as close. I can get rid of the type. In all fairness, I can get rid of the type here as well. We're overriding it with JavaScript, so we're not going to be using the default functionality of the form submit. We're going to have an input, and this is going to have a class of form-control. Like I've said, if you want to do this for another, let's say, framework or your own code, you can easily adapt the code, because the meat of the application is going to be in the JavaScript, to be honest. So we're going to have a type of text, an ID of search bar, and we're going to have a placeholder that's going to be search. Save that, and if we go to our website, refresh, at the moment it just appears. So what we want to do is actually go to our CSS file. So in our CSS, we're going to do hash search navbar display none. So the search navbar by default will not display. And we also want to hide something called search items container. This is essentially going to be our search results. So if I save that, we need to go back to the index file. There's one thing that we need to add. So after our nav and before all of the different script files are being included, let me just go to the bottom, some extra empty lines. What we want to do is add a div. This is going to have a class of container-fluid. This is just a bootstrap class, which just means it fully covers the width of the browser, instead of it just being sort of centered within like the 1000 pixel range in the middle. I can't remember the exact value. We're going to have an ID of search items container, and inside here we're going to have a row. This is just, again, simple bootstrap stuff. You can easily adapt it to different frameworks. Again, we're going to have something else that is bootstrap related. So call-xs-12 We're going to have an ID of search items. Save that. Refresh. Okay, so something went wrong because this is still showing. We'll go to the index.css. The question is, if I go to HTML, have I linked the, no I have not, I've linked index.js, my bad. So if I refresh, boom, it works now. So if I click on that, it doesn't actually do anything. We're going to be overwriting that default functionality of it submitting the form, because we definitely do not want it to do that. So if we go into our JavaScript file, the first thing that we're going to be implementing is a basic array with some items, and we're going to have var search items equals, and in here I'm going to put some names of superheroes and villains. I'm going to put Superman. Talking about heroes and villains, I'm looking forward to Heroes and Aliens, the Supergirl, Arrow, Flash and DC Legends of Tomorrow crossover, which is starting tonight on Supergirl. Then I think Arrow, Flash, or is it Flash, Arrow, and then Legends of Tomorrow. I'm really looking forward to that. So Brainiac. I'm going to put Thanos, Yoda, Darth Vader. Okay, that's enough search item. Like I said, if you want to get the data from some sort of feed, something like a database, and populate it into the array using something like Ajax, you can. Definitely recommend it. That's probably what you will be doing, but this will suffice for this tutorial. Now we're going to do some Jquery. We're going to be putting a document dot ready, a function, and in here we're going to have a function which is going to be toggle search, and this is going to have a parameter of event which we'll be passing in when user clicks on something. We'll be handling the click code very soon. And the first thing we're going to do is event.prevent default, which just prevents the default action, which the default action that we're trying to prevent is the submission of a form. Now what we're going to do is $hash default navbar dot toggle. So we are toggling the default navbar. If it's on, it'll turn off. If it's on, it'll turn on. And we need to do the same for the search navbar. So as one is going to be on by default, which is the default navbar, the search navbar will be disabled. They'll constantly toggle on and off, so we don't have to check which one is on at any particular time, which is fantastic. We're going to do the same for the search items container, because we want the container with our search results to appear if we are using the search functionality. So now what we're going to do is detect for the search button click. So search button dot click function event let me just add a bunch of empty lines so it's easier for me to scroll. I need some more empty lines. Yep, that is fantastic now. So in here, this is going to be simple. It's going to be toggle search. I'm going to pass in the event. That is it. That's all we got to do. And we need to select that. And we need to do the same for the close search button. The actual functionality within here is exactly the same. And now the last thing that we need to do is check when the user is typing. So to do that, we just do $. You know what? This is actually ready to start showing you some functionality. So if I refresh, if I click search, show the search bar. If I click close, as you can see, we're already getting some sort of Khan Academy style search where we click search, the rest of the navbar disappears and we have a search thing now. At the moment, we can't really do anything with this, but we're going to implement that right now. There's just a few more lines of code and then we're done. So first of all, we need to do hash search bar. So this is the input bar dot key up. So when the user has released the key, we're going to call this method, and this is essentially going to search in the array. So what we're going to do is $, hash search items dot empty. So we're just going to empty out the search items front end, because we'll be populating it with some new results. So what we're going to do now is run a for loop. So var I equals 0, while I is less than search items dot length and I plus plus. What we're going to do is if search items I, so this particular item, dot to lowercase, because we don't care about lowercase or uppercase. We just want to make sure if the actual character is the same. If it includes, I'm just trying to think what I should do in terms of, actually I'm going to save this out as a variable, so I'm going to do var, and this is going to be search bar search input equals $. We're going to use essentially this code a couple of times, so it'd be best if we save it out. Search bar dot val, and we're going to do dot to lower case, and then we're going to trim it as well because we don't care about any trailing white spaces. And now we can use this search input variable. So if it contains this search input variable, which is essentially our input, if it contains it and the search input dot length is greater than 0, so we only really care about doing something if the length is greater than 0. So if we are just putting a bunch of empty spaces in there because it's going to be trimmed, it won't match this particular condition. But if it is, we're going to do where is it? Hash search items dot append, and we're going to put a p tag in here. The way you want to style is totally up to you, but we're going to do search items I plus p, and we are now ready to run. So if you go back, refresh, if I click search, if I type in A, we get everything with the letter A in there. If I put a capital A, still works. If I put man, we only get stuff with man in there, which is fantastic. If we don't put anything or any white space, it doesn't pick it up. You could even have checks in there to say, please input something, or da 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 da. There you go, that's an extra task. Just improve the sort of validation a bit, just give a few more contextual messages to the user so they know what they're doing and what they need to do. So if I were to put, let's say, Y in here, there's only one thing with Yoda. If I put E, We got Superman and Darth Vader. If I put D, if I put O, if I put T, and let's say if I were to put H, now Batman disappeared, but Darth Vader is still there. If I put TM, but if I put TA, nothing appears because that's not valid. You could also put a check and a contextual message saying no search results found. That's an extra task. It's a pretty simple task. If you have any questions regarding this particular video or any other videos on our channel, or any sort of questions, feel free to post them on our education platform, sonarlearning.co.uk. There'll be a link in the description alongside our GitHub page link, which will have the code from this video and every other code in this Khan Academy snippet series. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button and leave us a comment. And as usual, thank you for watching and I hope you have a great day.